When Drag Me to Hell was first released in May 2009, few immediately realised that Sam Raimi's low-budget return to horror would quickly become one of the year's most misunderstood masterpieces, under the guise of a cut-and-paste horror comedy about an innocent all-American girl caught in the middle of a gypsy curse and an ancient demon lies an even darker truth, an undercurrent within the fabric of the celluloid itself that is far more subversive and terrifying.
Sounds silly?
The picture is worth 1,000 words, then a symbol is worth 1,000 pictures. As the title sequence unfolds, we're giving recurring symbols that will reflect the concealed nature of Drag Me to Hell's true story. First the cloth, white, pure, quickly being eroded in blackness, then a series of illustrations, each depicting a woman displayed with their mouth spread open. Then at the crescendo of the music, we're displayed with one of the film's most recurring symbols, a common housefly. This petulant representation foreshadows death and, more importantly, the decay of flesh. See, dear viewers, Sam Raimi is telling two stories running parallel on the silver screen with his return to the macabre. One involves a gypsy curse and an ancient demon who torments an innocent woman to the grave, and the other, a Los Angeles girl crumbles under an obsession with her own self-image, withering to the bone, infected with bulimia. Our introduction to Drag Me to Hell's protagonist, Christine, comes out of the gate with one of the most glaring personifications of the story's true conflict in the form of Christine's money sticker. Monies are popular dolls that come out of the box as blank slates, white canvases that you're encouraged to remake in whatever image you like. Not only is Christine trying to reform her self-image by ridding her southern accent with the help of a series of diction CDs,
round. Good sounds abound when the mouth is round.
We will witness through the course of the movie her psychological meltdown as she tries to remake her body to an ideal image in her head, much like a money doll. Not only is this journey one that is likely formidable, but anyone familiar with the geography of the aforementioned City of Angels would know that if you take 110 West past 7th Street to get to Wilshire Bank, you're probably heading in the complete opposite direction. Indeed, Raimi is already alleging that Christine is heading in the wrong direction in the journey of her body's transubstantiation. As Christine walks to work, the lens pays particular attention to her gaze at pastries, a longing for food, in particular food with fats that are filling. Already within 5 minutes, Raimi portrays Christine as a woman determined to change her self-image through a series of visual cues, including a desire for promotion, which also has a deeper, darker subtext. We meet Christine's boss, the manager by the name of Jim Jacks. The name Jim is derived from James, the origins of which lie in Hebrew, meaning supplant. The Celtic and Welsh meaning of the name Jack means healthy, strong, and full of vital energy. So in addition to Christine's climb up the corporate ladder, she is also climbing towards substituting her disease with a stronger, healthier persona. Here we see Christine's co-workers demean her, and not just by way of your typical chauvinistic attitudes, but by way of food.
And maybe on your way back you could pick me up a turkey club?
Turkey club, excellent choice. You mind picking one up for me? Thanks.
Raimi is discreetly offering foresight into Christine's troubles. As Christine visits her boyfriend, we see he is a professor in psychology. Christine's attraction to him parallels her desire for psychological help in her disease. He represents ego, Christine's strive for organization in her continually withering psychological state. His name Clay even evokes a proclivity towards a potential molding or reshaping in her life.
Wow, it's a 1929 standing liberty and it's almost fully struck.
The standard Liberty Quarter Christine presents to her boyfriend represents more than just a mere gift that serves the plot point at the end of the film. It is in fact a physical manifestation of the war between who she wants to be in spirit, a strong woman liberated, and who she strives to be in vain, the obsession with her self-image in the form of a button that we'll get to later. Liberty, as the story goes, was presented as the Athena of the Parthenon Peniments, a powerful woman striding forward. Of note is the year of this particular liberty. Pre-1917 liberties had a bare-chested, exposed and vulnerable Lady Liberty, whereas 1929 Standing Liberty's body is protected by armour. The quarter is both a material gift and an allegory of Christine asking Clay to protect her body. As Christine leaves, we see her listening in on a phone conversation between Clay and his mother about a new girl and not, quote,
"Oh, the one from the farm?"
Yeah.
Again, her concern with how she's perceived, especially by her boyfriend, is obvious. It's important to note that during lunch breaks we only witness her drinking water and coffee, while others, both her male co-workers and her boyfriend, indulge in hearty sandwiches and hamburgers. The terrorizing old woman who curses Christine isn't simply a dangerous gypsy. In fact, Raimi's depiction of Mrs. Ganush is that of Christine's manifestation of her own future bulimic self.
Will you help me?
Even her name resembles Baba Ganoush, a fatty Levantine eggplant dish. Her license plate is 99951. Turned upside down, it can be read, is 666. Oh my god! For both variations of the film's narrative, it works as a foreboding omen. She displays symptoms of the disease from gastric reflux to the loss of her teeth to her scratched and discoloured fingernails, often associated with fingers paced down the throat to purge. Her glass eye, however, is something more figurative that we get to soon. It's important to note that Christine is alone when the attack happens, and that it is foreshadowed by two key events: the distinct sound of coughing or someone purging, and a handkerchief which continually haunts Christine and represents the cleansing of a purge. When the attack happens, Mrs. Ganush repeatedly attempts to rip flesh off before literally eating it off, or attempting anyway. The Gypsy's curse of the button is especially interesting, for button's basic necessity is determined by the girth of one's flesh. In this case, the button represents Christine's anxiety on her self-image, and the remainder of the story is forever haunted by it. The Gypsy's ritual for cursing the button is even by placing it in her mouth, daring anything to enter. Here Clay, the rational id, perhaps identifies Christine's psychological position completely when he recites Freud.
Freud said destiny was not an act of fate, but rather something created by our subconscious to control our conscious choices.
The bulimic visions begin to occur when one of the most vital images appears within a Ladies of the Farm Guild cookbook. A younger, larger Christine at a Pork Queen fair. She immediately hears the demon when she crumbles the image of her former self. The first attack is in the kitchen and is caused directly due to the baking of a cake. Even kitchen utensils like pots and pans begin banging. Food is literally taunting her. During the attack, she witnesses a slim, ethereal figure that she doesn't resist in the slightest until it's immediately taken over by meat in the form of a beast that resembles a farm animal. That night, the decay of her own flesh begins tormenting her in the return of the fly. Having not eaten, her stomach growls, and when she subsides with the agony of hunger, the haunting of the bulimic witch, whose flesh is even more decrepit, returns and purges in her mouth. She purges maggots, a warning, like the fly, of the inevitable decay of her body. The next morning, she holds her stomach. Did the fly somehow manifest inside her body, or is her stomach simply growling? She imagines Stu's hand is in fact the hand of the old gypsy during a meeting, and goes on to call it a pig knuckle.
Get your filthy pig knuckle off my desk!
This is even further evidence that she's bringing her swine queen trauma to work. When she has a bloody nose, notice how nobody treats it like what she, and us, the audience, sees it as, a waterfall of blood. They react to it like a simple bloody nose. Incidentally, a common reason behind a bloody nose can be calcium deficiency. Christine's trip to the old hag's house proves to be one of the most interesting in the film. The blue ornament on the door caught my eye in the initial viewing. These antiquity are commonly referred to as evil eyes, and it's said to cause injury or bad luck. Eyes play a particular role in this with Raimi, and it's not a coincidence. The eyes in the film, from Mrs. Garnish's glass eye to the suggestive evil eye hanging on the door, actually represent Christine's view of herself, a looming gaze always judging her body. The evil eye even points to a wind chime made of bones, an omen of Christine's future if she doesn't get help for her disease. The skinny gypsy granddaughter of Ganesh puts it bluntly, quote,
You used to be a real fat girl, didn't you?
end quote. This scene is an indirect representation of Christine making her choice to purge, not just of food, but of what she considers the ugliness of life. Hidden inside the house is a company that, among other things, feasts on an abundance of foods and gambles money, which is something that she likely has nightmares over, being a loan officer immediately after Wall Street's collapse. You'll find the attacks in the film are always something coming out or going into Christine's mouth. Her purging of food is personified by the corpse puking quite directly into her mouth, the entire direct result of which is the hag pulling her hair. Hair loss is one of the many side effects of bulimia. Interestingly, the green way she imagines she's purging isn't even what's on her shirt. The stain left shows blood. Is this Raimi showing that Christine's purging is getting significantly more dangerous?
He's the Lamia.
When Ramjas identifies the demon as the Lamia, it opens up the most interesting subtext the film has offered so far. See, the Lamia was a beautiful queen of Libya who became a child-eating demon. Zeus placed a curse on her that prevented her from closing her eyes. Other versions state that she gave the Lamia the gift of prophecy. In later stories, Lamia was cursed with the inability to close her eyes, so she would always obsess over the image of her dead children. Over the centuries, Lamia has maintained her image as a gluttonous, stupid, unclean girl who is forever hungry. The truth is that Christine isn't being attacked by the Lamia, but is slowly metamorphosing into her own Lamia, forced to forever gaze upon her own childhood, the Swine Queen Fat Girl, and she's given the gift of prophecy into what she will become in the form of a disintegrating hag. The first 3 days is a safe fasting period, where the desire for food torments the victim. After that, serious health issues can, quote,
be a taker of souls.
The quote-unquote animal sacrifice is actually a signal to ingest nutrients from red meat. Like the first attack, the second occurs in the kitchen. She sees the shadow that forms pig hooves, the hallucination of the Swine Queen coming for revenge. Clay appears concerned for the blood on her sleeve, unknowns to him that blood often comes from the mouth after heavy purging. She's purging right before their big dinner with Clay's parents. When Christine offers the harvest cake to Clay's mother, notice the colour of the plate and of Christine's dress. Raimi is insinuating that the mother's disgust with the rich cake is also in Christine's figure. This is, of course, in the mind of Christine. Christine admitting her mother's alcoholic addiction is quite telling. For one, she doesn't want to become her mother, addicted to anything weak and perfect. For another, she's also testing her boyfriend and his family. She's gauging her boyfriend's family's reaction to weakness in an addiction. Luckily, the result is affirming. But of course, her self-deprecation doesn't sway, and the evil judgmental eye returns to haunt her when she's ready to dive into a plate of food. The more her life falls apart, the more she purges, her hallucinations of an even more rotted hag get even more violent, and she's more forceful while flushing her body out. Not only are the eyes continuing to judge her, but they are attacking her. Knowing her condition is worsening, she commits the ultimate act of flagellation for someone concerned with their weight, eating ice cream. Ice cream is a popular food for those infected with bulimia, as it's easy to vomit up. She appears to have also lied to Clay about being lactose intolerant.
I thought you were lactose intolerant.
The seance is actually her ultimate purging nightmare. What comes out of the mouth gets more bloody, her lifestyle is becoming more dangerous. The tormented demons of her nightmares even call her by name, "You dirty pork queen!" before vomiting out her cat. It's general practice by those with eating disorders to imagine the foulest images to bring up food during a purge. Later, she finds herself unable to cope with the hunger, so she goes to a diner, watching others eat and being ridiculed for only drinking coffee by the waitress.
So you're just gonna sit here drinking coffee all night long?
Yes. Maybe. What's it to you?
When she finally succumbs and eats more food that is easy to purge, she's again ridiculed by the waitress.
Seriously?
In her deteriorating state, eating gives a negative reaction, and not eating gives a negative reaction, which leads to her coming to a decision about her health.
I'll shove it down her goddamn throat.
As her anxiety rises, so do her hallucinations. The foreboding handkerchief warning returns and even goes down her throat. It does not get more obvious. Since Ganush represents Christine's perception of a life lived, if she does not end the destruction of her bulimia, she attacks, even when Christine believes she is conquering her addiction, and pulls even more of her hair. If the button represents the anxiety of her self-image, then giving it back to the dominant perception will thematically cure her. It becomes especially poetic when she shoves it in her mouth. Christine wakes up confident in her new life, but her breakthrough might not have been as immediate as she hoped. Upon entering the station, she immediately dismisses free food and admires her new coat in a store window. She can't seem to escape her button, the ideal her. She can never escape the anxieties of her self-image. It's no coincidence she starves into a skeleton in the middle of a railway. The disease stops her dead in her tracks. Of life.
Nothing like being Miss Popularity.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. I imagine this has been an edifying experience to say the least, and I hope to see you next time in